Hey everyone, today I'm excited to dive into a remarkable tale that might just flip your understanding of God and religion on its head. We'll be hearing from Lena Carter, who after experiencing something akin to a near-death episode, stumbled upon a profound truth about the divine that changes everything we think we know. What she encountered on the other side, it's likely to leave you in awe and reveal insights that traditional beliefs have never shared. But before we jump into this fascinating journey, do me a favor. If you're intrigued, hit that like button, subscribe for more eye-opening content, and tap the notification bell to stay in the loop. All right, let's get ready for an eye-opening experience. So, I'm Lena Carter, and I'm here to recount a chapter of my life that was nothing short of transformative. You might find it hard to believe, or even think I'm losing my mind, but for me, it's the most authentic truth I've ever known. I grew up in a household where success was paramount. Loving as they were, my parents had towering expectations. My mother often reminded me that just being average wasn't going to cut it in our family. Meanwhile, my father showed his affection by urging me to excel in everything I tried my hand at. From a young age, I learned that my accomplishments determined my worth in their eyes. In school, I was the overachiever, the student who consistently brought home top marks. I signed up for every club and sport available, from the debate team to swimming. On the surface, I appeared to be the perfect child my parents dreamed of. But underneath all that, I was a mess. Every trophy, every achievement felt like another burden added to my already heavy load. I was gripped by a constant anxiety about failing, about letting others down, and about never measuring up. Inside, I felt an emptiness that kept growing, and no amount of achievement could fill that void. Heading into college, I thought I'd finally get a break, a chance to escape my parents' watchful gaze. I imagined that all the pressure I had internalized would just vanish, but instead, it felt as if it multiplied, taking over my mind in a way I had never anticipated. That's when I stumbled upon what I thought was my escape: parties and drinking. For the first time, I could breathe, even if it was just temporarily. I could loosen those tight chains of expectation that had been suffocating me for so long. You know, when I was out at parties, I wasn't Lena the overachiever who needed to shine in every aspect. In those moments, I was simply myself, or at least I thought I was. It turns out, those carefree nights were just the kickoff to a turbulent journey that would take me far down a dark path. But oddly enough, this journey would also open the door to one of the most enlightening experiences of my life. It was that journey that exposed me to real love, acceptance, and a sense of purpose. So here's my tale, a tale of how I hit rock bottom and then, in a way, was reborn. It all started innocently enough. What began as a little way to unwind quickly spiraled into something much more perilous. The occasional weekend party turned into something I needed during the week. At first, alcohol felt liberating, but before long it became something I relied on just to make it through each day. I kept my grades up and maintained the persona of a stellar student, but underneath it all, I was crumbling. That hollow feeling inside me grew, larger than ever, and soon, booze wasn't enough to ease the ache. That's when the drugs entered my life. It seemed harmless at first. A friend passed me a joint at a gathering, suggesting it might help me chill out. And oh boy, did it ever. For the first time in forever, I felt a sense of relief, like I could finally exhale. But just like with alcohol, that calm didn't last. Before long, I was seeking out stronger drugs, and cocaine became my go-to. It was my partner for studying, for partying, and really, just to survive the day. My life became a relentless chase for the next thrill, the next hit that might take away my emptiness and anxiety. As I dove deeper, I noticed my relationships suffering. Friends who genuinely cared about me tried to reach out, but I just pushed them away. Even my family, who used to be so involved in my life, felt like distant shadows. I spun a web of lies, crafting excuses for my erratic behavior and constant withdrawal. My physical health, that took a hit too. I lost weight, my complexion turned sallow, and dark circles under my eyes became my new accessories. Yet, I chose to ignore all these warning signs, convinced I had everything figured out. As my addiction tightened its grip, my world shrank to a confining space. My days became a grim routine: find money for drugs, use drugs, and then recover enough to do it all over again. I morphed into a stranger, a mere ghost of the ambitious, lively girl I once was. I was oblivious to the looming presence of rock bottom, continuing blindly down a path that felt all too familiar. It had been a long journey down a self-destructive road, one I thought was my only way to handle the immense pressure that had weighed on me for years. I couldn't foresee it yet, but soon an encounter was on the horizon that would flip my world upside down. What began as an ordinary night would catapult me into an experience that brushed against the very essence of existence. On that particular Friday night in Chicago, a vibrant city where the pulse of nightlife never really fades, I found myself tucked away in an underground club in downtown Milwaukee. The atmosphere was electric, with lights flickering like a heartbeat and music hitting me so hard that it reverberated through my core. The air was thick with the mingled scents of smoke, perspiration, and an odd party vibe that disguised the despair lurking beneath. I had lost track of time, caught in a whirlwind of sound and movement, yet my thoughts drifted aimlessly, miles away. Hours had slipped by as I gulped down enough alcohol to numb the edges, supplementing it with a few lines of cocaine. Yet none of it ever satisfied that insatiable craving for escape. That's when I spotted Ethan, someone I vaguely knew from these late-night scenes. He came barreling through the crowd, his voice barely carrying above the cacophony. There was that familiar spark in his eyes, the unwavering thirst for the next high that seemed to draw me in. With a swift motion, Ethan yanked me toward a dimly lit corner of the club, seeming to thrive in the chaos. He revealed a small bag from his pocket, the contents glistening under the frantic strobe lights. "This is a game changer," he shouted, a lopsided grin plastered on his face. The urge to escape welled up inside me, and I didn't pause to question what he had. Without thinking, I took the bag from him, driven by that deep desire to break free from the gnawing emptiness that haunted me. As I readied a line on a credit card, a sense of anticipation surged within me. But the moment I inhaled, everything shifted. The sensation crashing over me was entirely foreign. Instead of the bliss I had hoped for, I was seized by an intense heat coursing through my veins, my heart racing dangerously fast as if it might burst. The vibrant chaos around me morphed into a dizzying blur of colors, the club lights spinning wildly. I reached out, desperate for something to steady myself, but felt utterly unresponsive. Panic clawed at me as shadows crept into my vision. I opened my mouth to cry out for help, but the sound just wouldn't come. My entire being felt like it was descending into a shutdown, one part at a time. The last thing that registered in my mind was the dull impact of my body against the ground, almost swallowed by the booming music that surrounded me. Then, just like that, I was engulfed in darkness, a profound pitch-black void that felt all-consuming. For a brief moment, I believed this was it. I thought I had gone too far, that there was no coming back. But as it turned out, I was mistaken. This wasn't the conclusion, rather it was the start of a transformative journey that would alter my life profoundly. As my form hit the floor of the club, something remarkable took place. An uncanny surge of energy coursed through me, creating a sensation of astonishing lightness. The panic, the agonizing pressure, it all evaporated in a heartbeat. I opened my eyes, or so I thought, and found myself hovering above my physical self. It was surreal, as if I were witnessing a scene from a film. There I was, motionless on the ground, looking pale as the crowd rushed around me in a frenzy. I caught sight of Ethan, the very guy who had slipped me that drug, darting through the throng. Others were gathered around my body, shouting for assistance. I could see someone beginning chest compressions, and while it was a strange sight to behold, I felt nothing at all. There was no discomfort, no pain. I yearned to call out to them, to let them know I was okay, hovering right above them, but no voice came forth. It dawned on me that I no longer possessed a physical mouth to speak or ears to hear. Yet oddly enough, everything around me resonated with extraordinary clarity. The once overpowering noise of the club faded into the background, and the flickering lights no longer agitated me. It felt as though my senses had merged into a single, heightened awareness. I glanced at what I assumed were my hands, only to realize they appeared to be composed of some sort of ethereal glow. My whole being radiated with this same radiant light. As I observed the chaotic scene unfold below, a sense of deep tranquility wrapped around me. All the fears, anxieties, and burdens that had weighed me down for so long simply melted away. For the first time in what felt like years, I experienced a genuine sense of freedom. Yet with that serenity came an overwhelming insight. Rather than a rapid montage, my life unfolded before me in vivid clarity, showcasing the choices I had made, paths I had pursued, and opportunities that had slipped through my fingers. Looking back, I realized that the love my parents showed me often felt like something I had to live up to, more pressure than support. Friends tried to lend a hand, but I distanced myself from them. Now I feel this profound sadness for reaching such a low point and squandering so much time. Yet, it's not a heart-wrenching sorrow. Instead, there's a gentle acceptance within me, an understanding of who I am and the choices I've made. In the midst of this reflection, a soft force began to lift me. It was as if an enormous magnet was tugging me away from that club and the life I had lived in Chicago. As I looked down, I saw my body on the floor, surrounded by paramedics hustling to revive me. For a brief moment, I paused. Should I stay or go back and try again? But the pull was too strong. With a blend of fear and a hint of excitement, I let myself be carried away. My journey seemed to take me beyond the physical realm, heading toward a place that felt strangely inviting, yet so unfamiliar. The chaos of the club faded out, shrinking into a mere speck as I moved upward. The vibrant lights of downtown Milwaukee, which once dazzled me, appeared now as mere pinpoints in the enveloping darkness. It didn't feel like I was simply rising up. Rather, it felt as if I was merging with something vast and extraordinary. The darkness transformed from a mere absence of light into a rich void brimming with possibilities. Suddenly, I began to perceive colors unlike anything I'd ever encountered before, hues so lively and vivid that they had no names. As I navigated through this amazing expanse, I sensed a presence surrounding me. It was intangible, not something to touch or see, but undeniably real. A feeling of not being alone and of being guided forward. Then, far on the horizon of this boundless space, a light flickered to life. At first, it was a small glimmer, something akin to a star in the distance. Yet as I approached, or as it approached me, who could say, the light swelled into a brilliant glow, far more intense than anything I had ever seen before. Surprisingly, instead of blinding me, this radiant light felt warm and welcoming, almost as if it beckoned me closer. As I moved toward it, a sound began to reach my ears. It was not precisely sound in the usual sense, more like a melody woven from emotions and memories, enveloping me in an embrace of familiarity. As I approached, an array of feelings washed over me, love, joy, and a hint of sadness, all blending into a beautiful tune that was hard to describe. The closer I got, the light began to form itself into something spectacular. It wasn't just a simple bright glow. It resembled a constantly shifting rainbow of colors and patterns, alive and vibrant. There was this magnetic draw to it, a powerful urge that didn't feel like a physical pull, but more like a deep desire from the core of my being to unite with this light. It felt like I was finally finding my way home after a long, wandering journey. As I ventured closer, I noticed there were no edges to this light. It stretched infinitely, enveloping everything in its warm embrace. Suddenly, without even realizing I had moved, I found myself immersed in it. It was an experience beyond description, like being surrounded by the universe's purest love all at once. Every part of me, if I even had physical form, buzzed with this overwhelming energy. In that moment, all my fears, worries, and past pains faded away like shadows in the dawn. I had a revelation. I began to grasp that this light, this radiant energy, was the foundation of everything. This was unconditional love, an essence woven through all existence. It felt divine, but not like the judgmental figure I used to envision. Rather, it was a gentle, all-encompassing presence. Engulfed in this light, visions began to flow through me. Instead of viewing my life as just a timeline of events, I saw it as an intricate web where everything was connected. Each decision I made, every person I encountered, and all the emotions I felt had their own significance. Even the hardest experiences fit into a larger design. But it wasn't just my story I glimpsed. I perceived how all things are intertwined. Each action, no matter how small, weaves into the greater whole. I realized none of us are isolated. We exist within a magnificent cosmic fabric. Feeling this complete understanding brought me a sense of profound tranquility. The judgments I held about myself and others melted away. I came to see that there are no mistakes in life, only lessons to learn, and each soul is on a unique journey of growth and transformation. In this place, time felt irrelevant. It could have been a fleeting moment or an everlasting eternity. Honestly, I couldn't tell. I wanted nothing more than to remain there forever, engulfed in this limitless love and insight. Yet, gently, I sensed a call to return. It was less of a voice and more a shared thought that conveyed, "Not yet, Lena. Lena, there's still more ahead of you." That voice resonated within me, and part of me was tempted to linger in this blissful state of clarity. Yet I understood deep inside that this call was valid. My time on Earth wasn't finished just yet. With a blend of reluctance and acceptance, I felt myself gradually disconnecting from the warmth of the light. But as I drifted away, it dawned on me that I wasn't actually abandoning it. It had woven itself into my very being, and this newfound understanding would accompany me back. As I began to retrace my steps, I realized that returning to my former life would be an entirely different experience than I had known. The shift from this luminous realm to the physical world was jarring. One fleeting moment, I was surrounded by divine radiance. The next, an overwhelming force yanked me back into my body. It was like being shoved into an uncomfortably snug suit. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I encountered was the concerned expression of a medic. The once dazzling club lights now pierced my senses painfully, contributing to the disorientation. The cacophony of noise around me clashed starkly with the serene silence I had just left behind. "She's back!" came a voice through the chaos. I attempted to respond, but my throat was parched and sore. My chest throbbed, likely a result of the compressions I'd undergone. Every inhale felt like a struggle, as if I had completely forgotten how to breathe. Before I knew it, I was laid down on a stretcher and whisked away to the ambulance. The ride to the hospital blended into a whirl of sirens, flashing lights, and anxious chatter. I yearned to tell them that I was okay, that I had encountered something extraordinary, but the words were stuck in my throat. At the hospital, a flurry of tests unfolded. The medical team looked puzzled. Technically, I had been gone for several minutes. My heart had ceased to beat, and my brain had been starved of oxygen for a duration that should have caused irreparable harm. Yet there I was, miraculously alive and without any apparent neurological issues. While the doctors huddled together trying to make sense of my situation, I remained quiet. How could I possibly communicate the experience of enveloping love I had felt? How could I articulate the profound insights I had gained about existence itself? As the days passed, I welcomed visitors. My parents showed up, their expressions laden with fear and worry. Those friends I had distanced myself from returned, extending their support during this bewildering time. Everyone seemed so curious about my ordeal, eager to learn how I was holding up. But how could I put into words that, even as my body ached and fatigue settled deep within me, I felt more vibrant than I ever had before? It was tough to convey that what felt like a brush with death had turned out to be the most impactful moment of my life. As I started to heal physically, I found myself wrestling with the stark difference between what I had just gone through and the mundane world around me. The antiseptic smell and sterile white walls of the hospital felt incredibly stifling compared to the vast expanses I had just encountered. Once I got the green light to go home, a storm of emotions welled up within me. There was gratitude, sure, thankful for another chance at life, but there was also a deep longing for the serenity and clarity I had felt on the other side. I realized I hadn't just returned for no reason. I had unfinished business in this life. Yet, I couldn't shake the dread that lay ahead. How could I possibly slip back into my former routine after experiencing such profound truths? Would I be able to weave that incredible experience into my everyday life? These thoughts buzzed around my mind as I began stepping into a life that would never be quite the same again. The initial days back home were a chaotic jumble of emotions and sensations. To others, I appeared to be the same Lena they knew, physically mending without any outward signs of trauma. Yet inside, I felt like a stranger to myself. The moments I had transcended life had forever shifted how I viewed reality. What once felt solid and unchangeable now revealed itself as a delicate illusion. I recognized there was so much beyond what we see, far more than my mind had ever grasped before. This altered perspective did not come without its hurdles. The simple tasks that used to flow so easily now felt bizarre and even pointless. How could I let myself get stressed over chores or unpaid bills when I had felt the infinity of the universe and experienced divine love? My relationships took a hit too. Friends and family, though overjoyed at my recovery, struggled to fathom the depth of my transformation. When I attempted to share my experience, I often encountered puzzled looks and doubt, as if they simply couldn't grasp the journey I had been on. People often suggested that my experiences were just figments of my imagination, perhaps dreams or hallucinations triggered by low oxygen. That doubt really stung. How could anyone question something that felt more real to me than anything else? In time, I learned to keep my story close, sharing it only with those who were truly interested and open. The hardest part, though, was what I battled within myself. As days turned into weeks, the profound peace and understanding I had felt faded in my memory. The gap between that extraordinary experience and the routine of everyday life felt like a heavy weight. I often found myself wishing to go back, longing for the warmth and love I had once known. This urge to return presented its own set of dangers. I found myself toying with the idea of recreating that peace through substance use. After all, wasn't it an overdose that had first taken me there? But deep down, I understood that wouldn't work. My experience was sacred. It couldn't be synthetically replicated. Plus, I had come back for a reason, even if I hadn't figured it out yet. To squander this second chance would not only betray myself, but also the greater power that had brought me back. Little by little, I started to see that the real challenge wasn't about reliving my experience. It was about weaving its essence into my everyday life. How could I live in a way that honored all I had learned? How could I showcase that all-encompassing love in my daily interactions? These questions ignited a path of self-discovery and transformation for me. I began searching for ways to merge my spiritual insights with my day-to-day reality. I tried everything: meditation, spiritual studies, volunteer work, hoping to bridge that gap and reconnect with a sense of purpose. The journey, though, was far from simple. At times I felt utterly adrift, caught between two worlds without belonging to either. Yet, amid that confusion, there were moments of clarity, times when the greater truth I'd touched became evident, pushing me to press on. It took time, but I started to grasp that integration wasn't an instant fix. It was a journey, a constant evolution of learning and growing. Returning to Chicago after everything that happened was about more than just coming back. It was about discovering my true self. As the months rolled by, I could sense shifts in who I was and how I engaged with life. The transformation sparked by my near-fatal incident didn't just fade away. It was continually reshaping my existence. One of the most remarkable things I noticed was how my old habits seemed to evaporate. The cravings I once battled for drugs and alcohol, which felt so overpowering, were simply gone. It wasn't about fighting a losing battle. Rather, it felt like the urge to escape had been satisfied by that life-altering experience. And time? Oh, that changed too. I used to be a constant bundle of nerves, always fretting about what was next, rarely stopping to enjoy the now. But after all that, I found myself embracing each moment. Every breath, every small interaction, every little nuance of life became something to appreciate and cherish. My relationships took a remarkable turn as well. The interconnectedness I felt during my experience blossomed into a profound sense of compassion and empathy. I began to see through the mask we all wear, recognizing the inherent goodness in everyone I met. This newfound understanding even opened the door for unexpected reconciliations. I reached out to my parents, forgiving them for the pressures they had placed on me, realizing they were simply navigating their own paths. Old friends, whom I distanced myself from during my tough times, found their way back into my life as I sought their forgiveness and offered mine in return. Then there was my perspective on work. The chaos of chasing accolades lost its allure. Instead, I found myself yearning for something more meaningful, a chance to impact the world positively. This shift pushed me to make bold changes in my career. I walked away from a lucrative corporate job, choosing to dive into social work. I dedicated my time to guiding at-risk youth, sharing my journey, and helping them forge healthier paths away from substances. Finally, my brush with death ignited a curiosity about spirituality and the unseen realms. I immersed myself in various religious and philosophical teachings, hoping to unravel the mysteries of what I had gone through. Practices like meditation, yoga, and deep contemplation became staples in my everyday routine, transforming my life even further. The journey I embarked on wasn't always smooth. In fact, it had its share of ups and downs. There were definitely days when I felt utterly lost, and the weight of everyday life felt so heavy compared to the sense of freedom I had once experienced. Occasionally, I found myself questioning everything, wondering if what I had gone through was just a figment of my imagination during a rough patch. Yet, just when I least expected it, those moments of profound clarity would appear, often at the most surprising times. Sometimes it was during an unforgettable sunset, other times while having a really meaningful conversation with someone, or even in the stillness during meditation. In those quiet interludes, that loving presence would surface, reminding me that everything in the universe is deeply intertwined. Those experiences taught me that my transformation wasn't about trying to relive that transcendent moment. Instead, it was about integrating the essence of that love, compassion, and the idea of oneness into my day-to-day existence. As I reflected on my near-death experience, it became clear that it wasn't a conclusion, but rather the starting point of a far more significant journey. One focused on ongoing growth, expanding consciousness, and serving others. Each day unfolded fresh chances to embrace the lessons I had absorbed. Every encounter was a wonderful opportunity to express the unconditional love I had felt. And each hurdle I faced became an invitation to practice acceptance and to trust life's natural rhythm. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't transformed into some sort of superhero who had all the answers. I still stumbled, made mistakes, and wrestled with doubt and fear. But here's the change. I started viewing those experiences not as barriers, but as stepping stones for growth. The most profound shift occurred in my perception of death. What used to feel like a dark cloud looming ominously over my life simply dissipated. I realized deep down that death isn't an end, but just a passage to something new. This insight liberated me in ways I never could have imagined, allowing me to enjoy life fully and cherish each moment with gratitude and joy. As the days turned into weeks and months, a compelling urge started to blossom within me, a desire to share my story with others. It wasn't about wanting attention. It was rooted in the belief that my experiences could offer hope and solace to those grappling with fear, uncertainty, or a sense of purpose. In the beginning, I took small steps, sharing my journey with small groups in Chicago where others who had similar experiences gathered. I was astonished to learn how widespread near-death experiences were, yet so many individuals were hesitant to discuss them, fearing judgment or ridicule. It was heartening to find a group of individuals who truly understood what I had been through. We exchanged tales of our experiences, the struggles of weaving those memories into our everyday lives, and the incredible personal changes we had faced. There was something healing about those connections, something empowering. As time went on, I found myself accepting more invitations, stepping up to speak at larger venues, spirituality conferences, university lectures, and even appearing on a few television shows. Every time I revealed my story, I was blown away by how deeply it resonated with others. Some listeners would cry, moved by feelings they couldn't quite put into words. Others felt an overwhelming sense of relief, as if I was voicing thoughts they had held silently for years. Of course, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I faced skeptics and critics too. Some dismissed my experiences, labeling them as nothing more than hallucinations, while others suggested I was trying to profit off a fabricated tale. Initially, those comments stung, leaving me feeling vulnerable. Yet, I gradually realized that skepticism often stemmed from fear. Fear of the unknown, and fear of challenging long-held beliefs. Instead of engaging in fruitless debates, I learned to share my story as openly as possible, allowing each person to interpret it in their own way. One of the best parts of telling my story was witnessing the positive transformations in others. I began receiving heartfelt messages from people who had overcome addictions, mended broken relationships, or discovered new purposes in life after hearing what I had to say. Those notes were a profound reminder of why I decided to come back. As my audience grew, so did my sense of responsibility. I wanted to ensure that people didn't view me as a guru or someone with all the answers. I constantly reminded them that my experience didn't grant me any special wisdom. It simply offered a glimpse into an existence that is accessible to everyone if they choose to open their hearts and minds. I saw my role as a guide, someone who helps create spaces for others to explore their spiritual paths and investigate their own experiences. Looking back, I hardly recognize the person I used to be. It's been quite a journey since that pivotal night at the club in Chicago, one that's brought its fair share of obstacles and personal growth. I could never have anticipated the incredible expansion of my consciousness that would follow. The moment I faced my near-death experience was profoundly transformative. It pulled me back from a path of self-destruction and unveiled a reality much richer and more beautiful than I had ever envisioned. But here's the kicker. True transformation didn't just spring from that single event. Instead, it's been about incorporating those insights into my everyday life. Each day presents a chance to remember the profound truths I've discovered. That love binds us all, that our experiences are filled with purpose, and that death doesn't have to be something we dread. Throughout this journey of sharing my story, I've visited places I never expected, crossing paths with individuals from every background and belief. It's become clear how deeply our longing for spiritual connection and meaning crosses cultural and religious boundaries. This sharing wasn't just a way to connect with others. It also became a crucial part of my healing process. Every time I recounted my experience or offered support to someone in need, I felt a rekindling of that essence that I had discovered. It served as a constant reminder of the love and wisdom I've encountered along the way. One key lesson I've come to appreciate is that you don't need to have a near-death experience to tap into this kind of wisdom. It's accessible to everyone, often found in the stillness of a moment, in a spontaneous act of kindness in nature's beauty, or during deep connections with others. Love isn't just a lofty idea, it's something we give and receive daily. Today, I view my life as a continuous mission. Sharing my story isn't enough. I aim to inspire others to reach for their own divine essence. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to spread kindness, and every challenge a moment to practice compassion and acceptance. I certainly don't have all the answers, and the more I learn, the more I realize there's still so much left to uncover. The journey of the spirit is endless, always encouraging us to broaden our horizons and deepen our capacity to love. I really want to share a message with everyone who takes the time to read my story. You are unconditionally loved exactly as you are right now. You belong to something much larger than you can ever comprehend. Your life has meaning, even when it feels unclear. Each moment brings a fresh chance to choose love, to evolve, and to become more than you were yesterday. Through my experience teetering on the edge of life and death, I learned just how valuable life is. Every single moment is truly a gift. You don't have to wait for something drastic to push you to live fully. You have the power to decide, right this moment, to open up your heart, forgive, love without conditions, and approach life with gratitude and intention. As I navigate my own path forward, I find myself immensely thankful for each day, every experience, and all the amazing people I meet along the way. I've got faith that one day, I'll reunite with that brilliant light of unconditional love again. But until that day comes, my purpose is to radiate as much of that light into the world as possible, one precious moment at a time. For those of you who have journeyed with me through my story so far, I hope it has stirred something deep within you. Maybe it's ignited a yearning to delve into the mysteries of your own essence. Always remember, you embody light. You radiate love. You hold the power to change your life and the lives of those around you, one loving act at a time. If this enlightening spiritual tale resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts below, and consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new content. Let's spread this message far and wide. Until next time.